Putting a bow on the loss to Bama, talking about Beamer moving on. Is it time to move on from him? Massive coaching changes all across the SEC, and it's basketball season a little bit, so there are some good things to look forward to there, including a potential top 50 prospect that is currently potentially in the fold for South Carolina. Locked On Gamecock starts right now.
You are Locked On Gamecocks, your daily podcast on the South Carolina Gamecocks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, guys? Welcome into Locked On Gamecocks. I'm your host, Chris Marler. It is Monday. Hope everyone's having as good of a Monday as you possibly can. And I hope all of you had a good Sunday as well. We got a good show for you today. It'll be on a plethora of things. There's a lot of news happening around the SEC, a lot of things happening around my neck of the woods over here, but also a lot more happening near and dear close to the hearts of our audience with South Carolina. So we're going to talk about all of it. We got a great show for you. First and foremost, I want to say thank you to everyone making Locked On Gamecocks your first listen each and every day. Shout out to everydayers. Guys, remember, we're free, available, and also on YouTube, as well as on every single podcast platform you can imagine. Wherever you're consuming the product, we appreciate it. Also, make sure you like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. Comment in the comment section. It's really the best way to help us grow. And we've been growing a ton. And I just can't say thank you enough to all of you for that. We had about 10,000 people on the live show on Saturday. I think this will be a lot less contentious and frustrated than that show was, but we're going to talk about all the things either way. This show's episode brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Today's episode, it's pretty simple stuff, guys. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege, all capital letters, all one word, and use that code for $20 off your first purchase. Let's get into it. Let's put a bow on the Bama thing. I want to start there because there's still some things that I feel like I'm frustrated about. We did the instant overreaction show right after the game, and a lot of that is just like an emotional reaction to what we saw, and a lot of things we were frustrated with. I could tell from the comments, people were very frustrated. There's a couple people that were mad at me for the DQ Smith question. I saw that in real time. You have to understand, there's 30 seconds left in the game. Watching a defensive player put his hands up, I did not know that was the call from Shane Beamer. We're also going to talk about if that was the right decision or not. Regardless, I said it on Saturday, but I'll say it again. My reaction to that, being so confused and questioning what happened, I did not realize what was happening in the moment that he was instructed to do that. So I got that wrong with my reaction. No problem admitting it. I don't think it's a huge deal from what he did or my reaction either, but also from what he did. I don't think that he was quitting on the play or anything of the sort at all. Moving on from that, talk about the game and some positive takeaways and also some negative takeaways that I feel like we still have, and some frustration that I thought you took a step forward, but I'm still pissed regardless. And we'll talk about that in a lot of ways. Also, massive changes coming out of SEC country and also around the national landscape of things in general, with Brian Kelly being fired from LSU on Saturday. Whether we like it or not, that does ultimately impact South Carolina in a way with this much coaching turnover in this cycle. Like what it does is put South Carolina further down the pecking order if they did decide to move on from Beamer, or Beamer decided to leave from Virginia Tech. So we'll talk about that. And then last but not least, we had a basketball game on Sunday. And it didn't end in a win, but I thought it was a pretty damn good result from the game against NC State. That's a potential top 20 team. They got Will Wade coming over, a lot of tournament experience out of Will Wade. And they lost, but I mean, there were some real big positives out of that, especially Eli Ellis putting in 23 points off the bench. Michi Johnson, just him being back in Garnet and Black in general is big. And news that I'll spoiler alert right now, Ohio State had a commitment from him, or his cousin, who is the number 36 overall prospect in the country. He decommitted, and now he is looking at South Carolina, and they are also pursuing him as well. So let's get into the show. I know it's a lot of stuff just to get into the start of it, but let's get started with the Bama part of it. So here's the thing. Took a lot of steps forward, I thought. The offense looked better, and I'm going to build you up before I break you down. I feel like the offense looked a lot better. I think there were some very positive things that happened on that offensive line. And listen, guys, nobody's been harder on this offensive line than me. I feel like we've all been very upset about it. It feels like a different group when they go out there with Sean Elliott on the sideline. the energy from the sideline feels like a different type of energy since he has taken over. I could easily be putting way too much stock into that because of how excitable he is, but I don't think that I'm crazy from looking at that offensive line and what they did against a pretty good front four for Alabama, and what they were able to do at times and push them around at times in that game. I thought the creativity on offense was so much better. And the thing that I was most excited about, and I kept saying this, them borrowing some concepts, like some skeleton concepts of like what Vanderbilt does with like the receiver motion, like the jet motion coming from like end to end, having play action from there, and then also getting out on the edge and trying to run the option. They ran that a couple times. They ran Norris on design run several times. It's stuff that I thought was much better than just the normal crap we have seen in between the tackles for the first couple games, or first half of the season. Now, it didn't result in some outbreak of offense where you put up over 400 yards. You still only had 335 yards. I also thought the defense played well, and I thought the defensive ends especially were awesome. I thought they were awesome. Bama's not a very good rushing offense, but you also saw a week ago when Oklahoma came to town. That was not an offense that ran the ball well either, and they ran for 7 yards more than their season game average on the season. They did that and covered that number by, I think, halfway through the second quarter. So here's what I stand from all that. I think it was some lot of positives that we saw on both sides of the ball from this weekend. Here's the frustration. Where the hell has this been all year? Like, I feel like I'm beating a dead horse, maybe. Maybe I'm being unfair. Maybe it's like, maybe we don't even want to talk about it. I don't know. But it's hard not to be frustrated about that decision making all season long. And then, I mean, you weren't coming off a bye. You were coming off your 4th loss. And then this results in a 5th loss. But it's like, where the hell was this all season? Like, where was this all season? And it sucks that an opportunity was in your grasp and got away from you because of a fumble, because of letting a team that you were up by 8 with 3 minutes left, and then you lose by 7. That's tough to do, and that's very frustrating. And like, listen, Alabama's a very good football team, but you had them in the exact spot you wanted them to be in, coming off the 4 wins. You had to give this stadium reason to believe. My God, I have a lot of friends over in Tuscaloosa that text me after the game, like people I used to work with, people that like just live in Tuscaloosa and are Bama people, but especially the people that I used to work with over there in that setting, covering the team, blown away by Williams-Brice. And they had been to Williams-Brice before. They went in 2019. A couple of them are kind of old like me. They were there in 2010. Like, they had been to Williams-Brice before, and it was nothing like that. And I think one exact quote I had from somebody was, that is the best road environment and the most difficult road environment I have ever seen Alabama play in. And this is a person that's covered it for years. Now, listen, Death Valley at night is a tough place, but Bama's played pretty well there. Kyle Field, obviously, is a tough place. They said it was louder than any place throughout the entire 60 minutes of a game they had been to. And that's a testament to y'all. Like, that's awesome. So that's all I have on that, man. I don't want to sit there and be negative. I thought Mike Shula did some positive things. I will also maintain this, guys. As positive as it was, unless the end result is more points on the scoreboard than the other team, I'm not moving off my position that I think a change still has to be made. I decided not to do the Sunday show where we kind of break down, Beamer's press conference and things he said. There's some things he said there I liked, some things he said that I didn't. Some things I'll just be flat out honest with you. I thought he sounded like Dabo Swinney and things that I thought were unrelated to football that I enjoy personally, but I don't care right now because I just need you to win football games. So there was a lot of reaction, but my main thing is this: from this game moving forward, tons of positives. And remember, going to Missouri, going into some of these other games, I've sat here, I'm like, I don't feel like you're going to win, but I need you to take a step forward in the right direction. And they hadn't been able to do that. They did that against Alabama. Now, if you're going to Ole Miss, that's going to be a tough game. It's an offense that can get got, or a defense that can get got a little bit. Like, they're not a great defensive team this year, but can you figure out a way to go do what you just did for 60 minutes against Ole Miss? Because what's very tough to do, especially we've seen it for South Carolina at times where It's really, really easy sometimes when things are going your way and to get up off the mat and like get some momentum and for just one Saturday, go get you a dub that no one thought you were going to have. It's hard to do that for multiple weeks in a row. I need this to be like a 2020. Cocktober's over. Cocktober's over. We need Cockvember or whatever you want to call it. That's not the best pun, or that does not really roll off the tongue. Allie's just trying her best not to laugh at my face right now. But let's also keep in mind that Shane Beamer in this staff, since he has been there, I need to make sure I double check this so I don't sound like an idiot. But this is the month usually when he pours it on. I don't need you to go in there and redo what you did a year ago. Last year, or what you did a year ago, with like ripping off the 6 straight wins. That's not going to happen. I need you to find that magic from 2022. And I would love to say the same magic he had last year in November and finish it undefeated. This staff has done very well in the month of November. Let me get my assistant. Allie, can you look up what Shane Beamer's record in the month of November is at South Carolina? That's why we got her on the payroll, guys. No, I do think though that you need some of that magic from 2022. Maybe it starts this weekend. I don't know. But I say all that to say this. I'm not moving off my current opinion that you still have to make massive changes offensively at the end of the season. And it starts with Mike Shula. But better job this weekend. All right. That is enough of dancing around some of the topics I want to talk about. I am going to get into in this next part. We're going to get into the DQ Smith thing. Was that a good call or bad call? And what they should have done. I have a different opinion, I think, than some will on that one. And then we're also going to talk about the coaching changes and how it affects South Carolina. Before we do that, let me take a deep breath. We're also going to pay some bills. I'm going to tell you about our friends at the Game Time app. Okay, the Game Time app. You guys have heard me talk about them before. You're going to hear me talk about them again. And there's no better time than now because college football is obviously back. It is nearing the third and final month of the regular season. But I could not be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's just nothing like it. Let's just be real. Actually getting tickets, though, it can sometimes feel more of a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. Listen, they're going to Oxford this weekend. If you haven't been, I feel like it's one of those things where it's like it's worth the trip to go see it, but it's almost like a Times Square for me. It's like, cool. If you're in New York, sure, go to Times Square and see the iconic pictures and things you've been hearing about. And they got a big old M&M store over there, blah, blah, blah. But it's also not that great. Going to a game there is a lot of fun. And maybe you get on the Game Time app and go get some tickets to go see a Gamecock win on the road. If you do, take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, that is promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. We'll be right back with more Locked On Gamecocks after this. All right, we're back. Got the numbers from our beautiful assistant here, Allie Davison. Give her a follow on Twitter. She loves it. She has like 25,000 followers. She's actually famous. Also, shout out to these cups. If you're listening on audio, you can't really see these, but these are incredible. Welcome to the Marlows with the picture of Pepper on it. Love that. Okay, let's get into the second part. We're going to talk a little bit about the coaching search. I want to start with the DQ Smith thing, but I also want to talk real quick about November. And I've just dangerously given myself some stupid factual information that might get me to believe again, but we'll see. Shane Beamer's record in the month of November. We talk about Cocktober all the time. I think it's just because it's a pun. But in the month of November, Shane Beamer's 13-4. 13-4. That's pretty damn good. Like, I mean, in the past 2 seasons, he is 8-1. And in the past 3 seasons, he is 11-2. So, and you think about like some of the top 10 wins he's had and all that kind of stuff. This is the top 10 team he's facing this upcoming week against Ole Miss. We'll talk about all that though. Now, also I will say this, that like one of the things I can tell you off the top of my head, I don't remember the 2023 numbers in front of me. I'm pretty sure that was like Kentucky, Mizzou, and it wasn't like the most difficult close to a year. Actually, I can just pull it up real quick. 2023 in the month of November, they had Jacksonville State, Vandy, Kentucky, and Clemson. with the loss obviously being to Clemson. But like last year, you had a top 10 A&M team you beat. You had a top 25 team in Missouri you beat. Top 25 in Vandy you beat. Then the top 25 team in Clemson. And then obviously in 2022, you had the back-to-back top 10 wins against Clemson and Tennessee. So he's beaten a lot of ranked opponents in the month of November. We'll see if it happens this weekend. The DQ Smith play. I overreacted to it initially. Admittedly, I did. If you remember the play, it's 3rd and 10. Jeremy Bernard is Bama's all do everything receiver. They've run him out of the backfield. He's lined up to throw a pass this year. I think he's actually thrown one. He's lined up to throw a pass multiple times. And then you have what he does, obviously, in the receiving game as well. He is their best receiver. It's not Ryan Williams. And I think that people are starting to see that finally. But 3rd and 10, and you got no timeouts, right? No timeouts. But 3rd and 10, and they run a misdirection, fake reverse type thing to the sideline. Now, he gets to the sideline, and you see DQ Smith put his hands up like this to make sure he scores. Now, that is a thing I think that somebody said it was like told to him by the coaching staff, which I think that's like if he made that decision in the moment, I don't have an issue with that at all. Like that feels like a heads up football play in the moment. If that's what happened, I'm pretty sure that the way that went down was the coaching staff told him to do that beforehand. Whatever. Is that a mistake or is it not a mistake? Here's my thing. I can see both sides of it. I don't know if I have a definitive view on that's being right or wrong. I know it's like not in my best interest to not have a take, especially in this day and age of sports media where it's like you have to be over the top having a take about everything. I don't know if I have one. Like there's part of me that looks at that and says, you know, Connor Talty is not a good kicker and he has missed a lot of field goals this year. And well, like in some limited action, he's not somebody that's like super reliable. That's a big spot on the road going into the student section, no matter how close you are. He has not been in that situation to line up for a game-winning field goal, and he's not been great. Like the game against Georgia, he hooked a field goal that was like, I mean, he might have missed it by 20 yards. I mean, it was horrible. When it happened, I remember sitting there watching the game with Allie, and she started laughing hysterically, as did I. So it's not a guy that I think is like, it's like not some clutch guy that's going to go up there, Adam Vinatieri, and knock one through. God, I just dated myself with that. But I don't have a problem with it necessarily. Like me personally, I kind of want him to have to make that field goal. If you knock him out of bounds and he's short of the third down or short of the line to gain on 3rd down, then it's, you know, it's 4th and whatever, and the clock would be stopped. There's around like 30 seconds left, whatever. Fine. Like, but it still is a chip shot that any college kicker should be able to make. I would, playing the devil's advocate of just knowing how bad he's been, I'd probably make him kick it, but he's also going right to left, which is kind of where he's had only issues going from like left to right. I don't know. I don't have an issue with it. I will tell you this. I heard what Shane Beamer said to Mike Shula. He said, you got the best player on the field, or maybe he said you got the best player in the country. Let him go win you a ball game. And they couldn't do it because of just the way the game ended. But that's kind of where my mindset would be too. Like I know you have no timeouts. I know you got to go the length of the field and all that kind of crap. I kind of get where he's coming from in that scenario, and I'm not going to crucify Shane Beamer for that. I'm not. The other decision that was interesting, I didn't think about this, but the other decision that was interesting was this. When South Carolina scored with 10 minutes to go in the 4th quarter, they went up 21-14, right? And they had the opportunity to go for 2 and go, why are we blurry here? They had the opportunity to go for 2. What is happening here? All right, so you had the opportunity to go for 2, and if you do, you go up by 9 points. If you do and you convert, you go by 9. If you don't, you are down, or sorry, you're only up 7, and you're kind of in the same scenario. You're in a 1-score game. I will be honest with you about how my mind worked in that moment. You kick the field goal, you're up 8. You're basically saying your defense, which has been one of the best defenses in the country, you've held them to 14 points on the day, and not the best defense in the country, but one of the best defenses in the country under Clayton White over the last 4+ years. You have held them to 14 points in the day. They're going to have to throw the football most likely. I know there's 10 minutes left, but they haven't been able to run the football effectively. I am fine with just kicking the field goal there, because they're still having to do the most. Like, you could sit there and say, well, the only way you lose the other way is if they score and then go for 2 and then beat you, which I don't think Bama would have done, to be honest. I don't think that, because you don't want to risk your second loss that would keep you out of a playoff on going for 2. So maybe that's even more of a reason to have done it. I don't know. But in my mind, when they were up 8, I was like, you're going to make them have to do the most just to tie you. Like, just to tie you. Everything else is a chance. Like, everything else, you're leaving up the chance of, like, well, if they score and go for 2 and we lose, then you lose. If they, like if we go for 2 and don't get it and all those other things happen. And let's be very clear too. The idea that this offense was all of a sudden going to put together some incredibly creative, awesome play from the 2-yard line, I don't love that. I don't have a ton of confidence in that. Hindsight's 2020. I think it's easy when you lose a game like that, especially in the way you lost it. I think it's easy to sit there and say, yeah, I should have gone for it there. Because then you could have been up 9, you put up by 2 points, or put up by 2 scores. They can't get as comfortable going down the field because they took like 7+ minutes off the clock in that drive. So I get where you're coming from. I totally get it. In my opinion, it kind of comes off as a little bit more hindsight as 2020 type moment and energy of, well, because what ended up ultimately happening was the thing that you never thought would happen. There's Bama getting the ball and then having to go the length of the field and score and then get a 2-point conversion. Now, they are very creative from an offensive standpoint, very creative. But there's just no part of me that thought that's like, yeah, that's like a must decision to make there. Like, you know what I mean? Like, like you have to do it. I'm kind of with Shane on that one. I'm with Shane on that one. And the DQ thing again, like the offense hadn't been great, but the crowd's behind you. If you don't score and you get to overtime and it's tied, you got to feel pretty good about that. The one thing you can't do there is what ultimately ended up happening. And it sucks. It just sucks. So that is all we're going to say about the decision making in the game. I really don't have. I'm not going to crucify him or Shula for that play call or the decision at all. I'm really not. I don't think there's a lot that we can be mad about this season. There really is. I just don't think that's one I'm willing to like waste even more of my anger and energy than I already have on other stuff this year. All right. It is time to pay some more bills. Before we go into our third and final segment, which we're going to close with the coaching search thing. And we'll move basketball to tomorrow because, of course, we'll be back for tomorrow. We got a big week ahead of us. Now, I do want to tell you about our friends at FanDuel. And your boy had himself a weekend this weekend. 10-3 in my picks. Was up 6.48 units. And I tell you what, one of the things I'm eyeing next, not just college football, not just Monday Night Football when I'm recording this, the NBA is back. There's no better place to get on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of a game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Live bets. Live bets are where it's at, guys. The line is moved. There's momentum. Players coming out of halftime. First half. Now, in the first half of NBA games is incredible. It's usually like 70-68 or something crazy. You can also combine your bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. We will be right back with more Locked On Gamecocks after this. All right. So, closing out today's show. With coaching search. I feel out of breath from just talking today. This has been the wildest 48 hours I've ever had as a professional in this career, which is saying something. But as everyone has heard, Brian Kelly was fired by LSU. That doesn't necessarily matter to South Carolina. But there is a big picture component of this that does. And that's what I want to talk about. I had a couple people reach out to me, South Carolina fans, say, if the job does come open, is Brian Kelly a better coach than Shane Beamer? I'm going to try I respect the hell out of Shane Beamer. I do. I know what the feeling and sentiment is for people about Brian Kelly across the country. I get it. I'm not making any excuses for him because I got to cover him closely here in Baton Rouge. Great. He's always been a great dude to me. I will tell you multiple times, like passing him in conversation, always had something to say, always a kind like word, whatever. That does not measure his coaching by any means, but I do like to judge people the way they treat me personally. And for me personally, passing him, a coach that is on the hot seat, a coach that has top 10 matchups coming up. They had 3 losses this year, all the top 10 teams. For him to take time and ask me how the move's gone, how my fiance is doing, how's being engaged, all that kind of stuff, always appreciated that. That's all I have to say. But I had somebody ask me, they said, is he a better coach than Shane Beamer? Unequivocally, yes. Unequivocally, yes. Is he the right fit for South Carolina? I don't know. I don't think so. I still am in the camp that Shane Beamer is the coach that needs to be the coach at South Carolina and deserves, more than anything, he's earned and deserves the right to fix the issues they have this year. This year sucks. But he's earned the right to fix this, which he said he wants to do and will do. So, yeah. But is he a better coach than Brian Kelly? No. Brian Kelly has 300 career wins. Brian Kelly's been to the playoff however many times. Brian Kelly has multiple Heisman winners. I think one Heisman winner. You can sit there and say he doesn't win the big game. Okay. He's won a bunch of pretty big games. He just hasn't won a national championship. Now, I don't think that Brian Kelly's coming to Columbia. Now, where this does get interesting is this. LSU's job opening up. Now, keep in mind, I was told from people very much in the know here on Sunday. And we'll talk about this specifically more this week. I was told by people very much in the know this or 2 Sundays ago, right? So the after they lost to Vandy, quote, there's no appetite to pay the $53 million buyout for Brian Kelly right now. There's just not. A week later, those same people were hungry to pay the buyout. The appetite was there. And they did. And it all happened in a matter of less than 24 hours that, we were alerted like I before like 11:30 in the morning on Sunday. I'm in here working, doing all this stuff. We're like, hey, the offensive coordinator is going to be gone. This person might be gone. I'm getting ready to print this and write this and have this reaction, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, but like no one else, right? Because like surely Brian Kelly's not going to go. And like, no, I don't think so. We'll see though. And then I got a phone call after that was, yeah, he's going to be fired. So, and then you have to wait until like 8 p.m. for that news to come. It was a wild Sunday. But how does that impact South Carolina? It impacts it this way. LSU is the premier job that is opened in a coaching carousel in a cycle where I don't know if I've ever seen this amount of marquee jobs open. Florida's a marquee job. Penn State's a marquee job. Oklahoma State's not a bad job. It's a Power 4 school. That's open. These aren't marquee jobs, but Stanford, Oregon State, Kentucky might be open. Auburn might be open. Florida State might be open. Sark could move to the NFL, which is something we heard on Sunday. Or Saturday. I don't think it's going to happen at all, by the way. But there's a lot of marquee jobs that are already open and searching. And there's a couple more that are potentially going to happen. I talked to a couple of friends at Auburn, and people in the know there, and their reaction after winning, by the way, against Arkansas, their reaction to the Brian Kelly firing was like, crap. Because now, like, if you're Auburn, you're a good school. You're pretty close to being a name brand. You probably are a name brand. I don't know. You're not a blue blood, but you're a name brand. Are you going to go compare? Is your place of business, your place of hire better than Penn State, Florida, and LSU? No, not at all. And LSU is the premier job now that's open in the country. It's not Florida. Make no mistake about it. It is LSU. The Florida job is a good job. But there's several other things working in LSU's favor that are better than Florida. Mainly the fact that you don't have coaching turnover every 3 to 4 years like you do in Gainesville. Okay. I know what just happened, that I know about Ed Orgeron, but think the stability they've had in place before that it speaks for itself. And there's way more resources that are willing to be put in play here than at Florida. But Auburn's reaction got me thinking, and I know this is a very long-winded way to put all this, but if you're still listening, thank you. I know it's a long-winded way to get all this, but the Auburn part really got me thinking because that's what kind of hit home about South Carolina. There are some coaches that I would be ecstatic to pursue if Shane Beamer left to go to Virginia Tech, or if he ended up being fired. Even at 4-8, I don't think he's going to get fired. I just don't. I don't think the buyout is too high. I think you get some people that bought back in. Now, listen, it's a long season still. You got to go to Ole Miss. You got to go to A&M. You get your ass kicked at both those places, and then you have a showing against Clemson where you lay an egg at home. We're going to have some different conversations, I'm sure. But that's why this move from LSU is even more impactful down the road, because if you do decide to move on, and a lot of fans feel like that's what they need to do. I am not in that camp, but a lot of fans are in that camp where they're like, it's over, we're done. And I think there's some boosters that get like a weird sense of like missing out, where they're like, no, we got to fire people. I'm telling you right now, in this cycle, I think the Auburn approach to it, if they hold on to Hugh Freeze, I don't know if that's the right move. For South Carolina, I don't think you're in a great spot to go make a hire in this cycle if you're trying to land a marquee name. Now, if you want to go get Jamie Chadwell, and I'm just spitballing names that are coming to my mind, Jamie Chadwell or some other G5 like coach or a coach that is a former coordinator making his first, or Alex Golish, who I would love, by the way. But like, if you were doing that, you could talk me into why it's a good decision if you're going that route. But if you're trying to go land James Franklin, which do not scoff at just because he lost to Ohio State a bunch of times. The man was in the college football playoff playing in like 9 months ago. So if you're trying to go get a name like that, the guy from Tulane, John Summerall, because he will have a home, you're obviously not going to go get Kiffin or anything like that. But like, the point is, the pecking order, whether we like it or not, the pecking order for South Carolina continues to fall when places like this become open. So I guess I say all that to say, I understand the ire, I understand the frustration, all that kind of stuff. I think less and less that this is the right decision to make. Now, I'm sure that we are going to be frustrated if they continue to lose games, and maybe it's a different conversation. But I think we could also think from this Bama game as clear-headed as possible and rational as possible right now. No one expects them to win at Ole Miss or A&M. They might beat Clemson. They might beat they should beat Coastal Carolina. But like, if this thing does end up 4-8, or where the ceiling is where we think it is at 5-7, then if that happens, like, just remember now, as clear-headed post-Bama as possible, it might not be in your best interest this cycle to make that move. Not because of money. That's a factor, but not because of money. More so because of the competition you're having to go after from these other places. Now, if Beamer leaves, you're going to be involved in that no matter what. But I don't see that happening. Anyway, that is all for today's show. I thought we'd do like a 20-minute show. Of course, it's 35 minutes. I appreciate you guys so much. I hope you guys had a great rest of your weekend. Thank you so much for listening. We'll do it again. Obviously, tomorrow we'll have the live reaction on Saturday as well. And until then, guys, go Cox.